oh my gosh. We are welcoming our 9th guest of season 4 for Marketing Tip Tea Time. It has been a whirlwind. It's already the end of November.
That's right.
And we are entering the holiday season. Thanksgiving is this week. We are pre-recording. So you're going to be like, what is going on? He's talking about Thanksgiving. That was last week, but no, we're actually pre-recording this. And I'm sitting here with Dr. Vish from the Monfort College of Business at UNC Greeley, the University of Northern Colorado, not to be confused with UNC, the University of North Carolina. Today it's going to be amazing. So Vish actually has done so much for me personally and for so many students who have come out of the Northern Colorado area and out of the Monfort College of Business for marketing. He has been an inspiration to so many students and have gone on to do great things. So we wanted to take some time. We had Sherry Christensen a few episodes ago, who was my high school business teacher. And now we want to dive in and know a little bit more about what it takes at the collegiate level to do essentially the same thing. What do you need to do in college, in higher education, to set yourself up for success for when you come out of school, when you graduate? How do you get to where you want to go? How do you do things in college that translate? And so that's what we're going to dive in today with Dr. Vish here. But before I do that, we have to talk about our sponsors who make everything possible. Whole Brain Consulting. Thank you, thank you, thank you. They are an outsourced operations consultancy that specializes in the consumer products industry, providing solutions catered to your needs. Go to whole-brain-consulting.com for more information. And also thank you to Color World. Color World is your one-stop shop for everything anime. Go to colorworldlive.com for more information. And drum roll. Here's Vish. He was sitting next to me the whole time, so we didn't have him, jump in like we usually do. But Vish has an amazing story about coming to the United States, getting his doctorate, becoming a professor. Again, like I said, he has been my professor. I actually had him for all 4 years. I actually even had him my freshman year.
That's right.
I went to Europe with him on a study abroad trip. Lots of great times. And so we just have to dive in. And I'm going to let Vish tell a little bit more about himself, a little bit of bio. If you were to talk about just a 3-sentence biography, what would you say about yourself?
He wants a 3-sentence biography. The first sentence is that I am a first-generation college student from my family.
Wow.
My dad actually went out to work in restaurants, etc., when he was 4 years old and saved money and sent it back to my grandma. And as he was actually getting his life together, he realized how important education is. So he decided to send me abroad to study actually engineering. That was my very first college major at New Mexico State. And once I got my engineering degree, I went to work for 2 companies. Beardsley and Piper was a manufacturing company, and National Cylinder Gas. And that was a company that took atmospheric air and turned it into liquid oxygen, liquid nitrogen, etc.
Wow.
And so I was actually a customer relations individual engineer for both companies. And it was really, really quite an experience. And they suggested that, because I like to work with people, I deal well with them, they said, you ought to go get your MBA. And that's how this whole excursion started for me. And as I got my MBA, I was substituting for my teachers, or my professors, I should say.
Yeah.
And the students went back and told the department head, I got more out of one day of listening to this young man than I did whole semester listening to these professors. That's how my teaching career started. So
Wow.
No.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And then you ended up at Monfort College of Business.
Monfort College of Business, because they were going for their accreditation, AHCSB accreditation, the very first one.
Okay.
And they hired me in '85, and it took about 8 years to get our first accreditation. We got our accreditation in '93, and we've been reaccredited ever since. And we have a visit coming up.
Wow.
Next year.
Amazing.
This will be our 7th reaccreditation.
Congratulations. And you're part of the first round.
That's correct.
So how many years is that for those who can't math?
I have been at UNC for 37 years.
For those of you who don't know, that's a long time. 37 years is a long time.
But it's been a very, very educational and enriching journey. That is what it's been.
Wow.
Yeah.
And okay, so today we have a little bit of chai tea from Royal Nepal, which is actually a restaurant here in Greeley, right next to our studio.
That's right.
It's two or three buildings over, and this is what Vish loves to drink, and he actually got my wife and I addicted to this as well.
That is
so. I'm going to go ahead and pour a cup here. Do you have any stories about chai tea or anything that's...
Actually, chai is very frequently consumed in India. It is one of those staples that we drink it in the morning, in the afternoon. Any chance we get, we indulge in drinking chai. And it's an interesting concoction. When I say that, the Indians prepare chai, the tea and the milk and the sugar, everything gets boiled at the same time. And then it is sort of filtered through some nice little filtering system. And the chai becomes extremely potent, rich, flavorful, and unbelievably tasty.
Oh, yeah, it is great. And you said that they steep or they brew like directly into milk.
Yes, they boil the whole thing together, meaning the tea leaves, the milk, the sugar,
right.
Everything comes up together.
Wow,
and then,
that's great.
Yeah.
Here, cheers. Let's try
cheers
this.
To you. Yay, love it.
Oh,
that is good.
It's a great winter tea. It's a great fall tea. It's actually a great all around tea. There's a lot going on in it.
That is correct.
A lot. It's very
flavorful.
Yeah, a lot of depth. A lot of
cardamom,
spices.
Cinnamon, sugar, all kinds of nice, interesting spices. Tea masala, as they call it. It's a mixture of various flavors putting into the tea. It is just incredible. So that is one of my favorites. Actually, Nirmal and Nischal at the Sherpa Grill make this especially for me when I get there.
Sherpa Grill, Royal Nepal. It's kind of the same place. They had a rebrand, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Wow, yeah, an amazing tea. If you're in Greeley or if you're in the northern Colorado area, you have to try it. And then, if you're not, find out how to make it. There's TikTok. There's YouTube.
That's right. There's always a chai recipe.
Yeah, exactly. So Vish, I had Vish all 4 years of my undergraduate at UNC, and I want to dive in a little bit about what students can do to set themselves up for success. Because there's the classroom, right? Everybody goes to class, but the class is where the learning starts and not where the learning ends.
That is correct.
What are some things that students should be doing?
I tell them as they get into one of my very first classes that are 4 or 5 things that they have to really, really be able to do once they graduate, or even as they are graduating. Number one, I challenge them to define themselves in one word. Okay, in other words, what do they represent? What if somebody comes to them as, what is your brand? Asking them, what's your brand? What we do is we sort of go, I don't know. I like to do this and I like to do that, etc. But what I want them to do is focus. What is it that they are happy doing, they are comfortable doing, and they really want to do when they graduate? Nobody remembers anything from a textbook. After 6 months after they graduate, etc., you ask them. I challenge you. Ask anyone, what textbook did you use in this class or that class? And let's see how many of them remember the name of the textbook.
I do remember some, but from the music school, not from the business school.
That's because that was your passion at that time.
Yep.
And see, that's the thing. Anyway, I basically tell them one of the first challenges that they're going to have when they graduate or when they start working is to find answers. Okay, I never give my students answers in my classroom.
He doesn't.
I show them how to get to them. And there are literally tens of hundreds of ways to get there.
Yeah.
So the whole idea is to be able to find information. But there's a caveat. Every Tom, Dick, or Harry is going to be giving you information about anything. So your job now becomes, how do I cull the information
Gotcha.
to more usable information for my query that I have?
Right.
So that's their challenge. I use an example in class. You've done this. I ask one of my students, give me a topic. So one of them yells out, fishing.
Ah, okay.
So
yeah.
if you go into Google and just type in fishing, you literally have over 300 or 3 billion places that you can go look at for information for fishing.
Yeah.
How old are we going to be by the time we get through all of them? So what I suggest them, okay, now tell me, how do we narrow this information to what you want? Then they say, fishing in Colorado. Now, from 3 billion, you get to 300 million places you can look
Right.
for.
A little bit more attainable.
Now, what do we say? How do you narrow it down further? Now they go fishing in Weld County. They still have over 3 million places to go. Then I ask them, what kind of fishing do you want to do? Fly fishing. Now say fly fishing in Weld County. See, so the whole task is step by step filtering the information that is available to you to more manageable ones. So that's the first thing they need to do.
Right.
So look for information to
We-
literally focus on what the problem situation is.
There's a little secret to most of people's jobs, and that is that in order to be good at what you're doing, you've got to learn how to be a good Googler.
Well, Google is a verb anymore,
Yep.
and that's exactly what it is. So that's the first thing. Again, looking for information and the right kind of information and how to be able to cull the information. The second thing really you need to know is how to use it to get the query addressed or answered that you have.
Right.
And that is also a real challenge. In other words, how to be able to think critically and to be able to think in a more organized fashion. That is absolutely critical. So organized thinking after you find the information to actually answer or address the query. That's another one. And the other thing I tell them is to always find a mentor. Okay, there is so
Yes.
many advantages in actually
Yes.
locating a mentor that you admire, you want to emulate, and so on and so forth. So finding a mentor is absolutely critical. My mentors really looked at my talents and what I could do, and they directed me in the direction where I can actually develop my passion, increase
Right.
it, just go after it, so to speak. So that's the other one. And another thing I tell my kids is anything you do, have fun with it. That is absolutely critical. You don't want things that you do to be a chore. You
Yep.
want it to be a challenge, but a fun challenge. And that should be able to direct you in the right direction to address some of the things that you have to do. So that's
Right.
the other one. So finding a mentor is absolutely critical, and having fun is the other thing you have to do.
So speaking of fun, so one of the most fun things I did in college was the study abroad with your class.
Yes.
How important is studying abroad to education, to college students?
You know, that is a great question, and I've been taking students to different parts of the world over the past 30 years. And the most interesting thing that I find when they travel with me is when their eyes light up. Okay? In other words, there's a lot more to this world than your little cocoon that you grew up in. And so by going abroad and studying the cultures and being with the people of various countries, it literally illuminates your ability to think differently. Okay, it's kind of like Steve Jobs said some time ago. It doesn't matter if you do what other people do, but do it better.
Right. Yep. Yep.
And that's what traveling abroad and mingling with people that have different backgrounds and that are diverse, what that does is allows you an amazing perspective of how to address various issues.
Right.
There you go.
Wow.
That's what it is.
That's amazing. And so, throughout your years of teaching, what has been the biggest obstacle in a class that you've had to bring students through to learn? What has been the biggest moment that's like, oh wow, we really got to pull the students through here? And what did you do, and what did the students do to get through those situations?
You know, that's another interesting question. Oftentimes, I just finished a paper that we're going to present in about a week, or in about 3 weeks, actually.
Right.
And it is about ecosystem. Okay, I am a big believer in the learning ecosystem. And what that essentially means is that everything around a classroom, including what is in the classroom, is very organic. My role is to really address that organic nature of things that go on, the environment, the students, the faculty, the subject matter. All these things really have to work together. So whenever somebody comes to me and says, oh, this student is not able to learn, or that student is not able to learn, my immediate reaction is, have you looked in the mirror lately? Because it is not the students, it is how you approach the students in providing the opportunity to learn.
Right.
We don't all learn the same way.
Right.
So designing a classroom environment, which I call a safe space, is where students can essentially be themselves while they're learning.
Right.
And if you give them that self-learning opportunities, I think every student can learn, albeit in different ways.
Right.
So I really think all of them can be benefiting from a classroom if the classroom is designed the right way.
Right.
Marketing isn't rocket science, okay? And meaning if you treat your customers right, they are going to come back to you for more.
Yep.
And why is that so difficult?
True.
You see,
a lot of people don't get that.
Well, we make it difficult.
Right.
And again, I showed my class lots of videos, and one of them is where Simon Sinek basically says, if your goal is profit, you already started on the wrong foot. Profits are the results of what you do well.
Yeah.
See?
Exactly.
And therefore, profits are important, but it is what you do with what commitment and what fervor you do, that is the most important thing. If you do that well, you are going to have people breaking down your front door. I guarantee you.
Wow.
Guarantee you. It's simple. It is.
So, okay, so marketing's simple, sort of. And then, 4 years in it, what is the thing that you want a student to come out of your classes with? What in the marketing world, what can they use? What is the one thing you want them to walk away with and say that I did my job there? Now they know.
The ability to think. The ability to think.
That's good.
That is the most important thing. We don't want them to be robots. We want them to be able to think about what their challenges are and how to address it. You see, we condition our students, when I say we, I'm sorry, most instructors condition their students to recognize the symptoms and not the problems.
Right.
Not the causes. My job is to have them recognize the causes that cause the symptoms.
Yeah.
Because if you can address the causes, then you can literally be much more effective in getting the challenges overcome.
Wow. Yeah.
No, we are totally conditioned to look at the symptoms. I ask them a very simple question. What do you do when you get a headache? And my entire class, one of them says I sleep, the other one says I drink water, the other one says I take ibuprofen, somebody else says I take aspirin, but
Right.
nobody looks at what caused that bloody headache.
Yeah. Right.
So the whole thing
Right.
is to look at the causes rather than the symptoms. And if you can
Wow.
condition yourself to do that, and again, one of the first questions that I ask every one of my students in anything is why.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? An organization.
Back to Simon Sinek.
Yeah.
Yep.
The organization has to have a mission. The mission is the why. The strategies are the how. And the tactics are the what.
Yeah.
And again, Simon Sinek makes money saying this, but that's his
He does. He has
prerogative.
the circles.
That's his
Yep.
prerogative.
Yep.
But the whole idea is that every one of us love to talk about what we do,
Mm-hmm.
but very few of us know how we do it.
Yeah.
And very, very, very few of us know why we do it.
Yeah.
So start from the inside out and think about why you are engaged in something, and does that make sense?
Right.
And surround yourself with people that believe in that, and now you have an organization that is going towards the same goal.
Right.
And then have them dictate how to get there,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
finally put it into implementation and practice.
So speaking of that conditioning, how, and I asked this to my high school business teacher, how big do you think is the gap between what education is currently doing, higher education, what they're currently teaching, and what the real business world is demanding for the actual skills? Do you think there's a big gap there? Do you think there's a small gap? And how can students close that gap if the institution is not actively trying to close that gap for them?
Well, to me, I don't think the students are unable to do it.
Yeah.
It's just that they haven't been given an opportunity to do it.
I got you.
So my function in my classroom, my role in my classroom is to provide my students the opportunity
Right.
to really look at things differently than they've been conditioned to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I insist on why they do what they do
Yeah.
and how can they make it better,
Right.
and then what needs to be done. And again, I have lots of little thingies that I tell my kids.
Right, yeah,
One
yeah.
of the things is that I want them to look at everything they do from the point that they walk into my classroom the very first day, is to look at everything as a process. Okay?
That's key. Hold. What I want to start. That is key. All right. Hold on. That's something that we haven't necessarily heard a lot on the show before, and I almost spit out my tea there for a second. But looking at things as a process, very important.
Absolutely.
And I just write this down, everyone. All right.
Now, and the thing is, though, what does it mean? Everybody has been given the word process, but do they really know what it means?
Right.
It really means that there's no one perfect way to do anything. Everything that you do can be done better. Therefore, it's your job to look for better ways to do everything that you do. And that's my primary, how do I say this, preaching to my kids. Look at everything you do as a process, because there's no one perfect way to do anything.
So, what are some ways that you can identify ways to get better in your process? So,
Good question.
How do you identify those things, and how do you work on that?
Very good. There are 4 components to a process.
See, he's got it all down. It's
No.
it's all broken out.
But it's
His
sim-
master class is coming out soon.
It is simple. No, it is simple. You have an input component, you have a transformation component, you have an output component, and you have a feedback component. Those are the 4 components of a process. You can constantly look at each one of them and see how they are making you better, i.e. input, which is you. Okay, can you augment your skills on a regular basis? Okay, augmentation of your skills. That's the input side of it. Transformation. How do you convert the input into output? And that changes all the time. That's part of the environmental setup.
Yeah.
Output, it was what comes out. You see, and that's the other side of it. We, as a group of individuals, we've always looked at the results and not the effort. That hurts me too, because it is important to know the effort, how much effort needs to go into it to get the right output. And that's the transformation process.
Yeah.
Once you do that, the output pops out, and now the feedback allows you to see if all the things worked the right way. And if the feedback isn't, it can always be improved.
Yeah.
Okay? And if you can look at all those 4 components in an organized fashion,
wow,
you are on your way to success.
That is, we call it spilling the tea. We've had this is partially why I asked Vish to come on the show, because the thinking is so different. It's building blocks, right? These are concepts that Dr. Vish is talking about that apply not just to marketing, but to everything.
Yes.
And these are the foundational blocks of how to be successful in whatever you're doing. And we call it spilling the tea on Marketing Tip Tea Time. And so you have, what was it? You said it was input, transformation, output, and feedback. Mm-hmm. That, I hope you have your notebooks and your pencils out. Because it's
a simple process.
Wow.
It's not complicated. We oftentimes try to complicate things.
Yeah.
And again, each one of those components is affected by the environment.
Right.
And the environment is the most dynamic ingredient in the whole makeup. Environment makes the input change, the transformation change, the output change, therefore the feedback changes.
Wow. See, I every time I sit down with Vish, I learn something. Every single time. Let me tell you. I've been very silent during this episode because I've just been like, oh my gosh, I gotta actually pay attention here. Wow.
No, it is really, most of the things that happen around you, we complicate it for some reason.
Right.
And you don't need to. And this is the other thing. When you start working in the marketing area, how many times do you talk to other marketers? Very few times.
Yeah.
Who you talk to are people that have no idea about marketing. So our function as a marketer is to simplify things. And if you can, and that is true for any function of a business, you have to simplify things. And that's the other formula you need to put in the back of your mind. How do I simplify things and make it transparent? And you do that, success is everywhere.
And follow-up question. What are some ways that you have simplified something?
Okay.
I know, we're diving in.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Classroom. Okay. How do I simplify what happens in a classroom? By creating an environment where the students basically feel so comfortable being themselves, not whom I want them to be. So I allow them the freedom to literally be themselves.
Right.
There are no bad questions in my class. There are no bad questions because they are being inquisitive, and it is my job to point out the right direction for them. I'm not going to give them the answers. Mm-hmm. I'm going to show them how to get the answers.
Right.
That's the process.
Wow.
So that's what I've done over the years. And when I first started, I used to do what every instructor used to do, read the chapters and show the PowerPoints and this, that, and everything else. My class is very different today. Yeah. All we do is stand up there and converse with each other. I don't sit there and talk to them. Actually, I wish I could show the audience my recorded lectures. That would be really interesting.
We could throw one into the comments if you want to. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
In other words, I have a little smart board in front of me, and I scribble a lot.
He does, yeah.
And therefore, it is just an exchange of information with them coming into the classroom to learn some more stuff. For example, today we were talking about some pricing strategies. Okay, and we were talking about market
one
pricing.
Of the 4 P's?
That's correct.
Or is it 5 now? I think they added a P at one point.
You can add as many as you want. No, but the thing is though, pricing is one of the most flexible, how do I say this, variable in marketing. You can really move it up and down the way you want to if you know why you are moving it.
That's a key right there.
So we actually talked about some of the pricing strategies, conceptual versus technical strategies in class today. And I tell you what, my kids, they had thought processes in every one of them.
Wow.
And I couldn't keep them down.
That's great.
But that is because they are affected by it.
Right.
But they don't know how it came about.
Right.
So we were talking about markup pricing, and it was simple. I asked him a simple question. Something cost me $1 and I sold it for $2. What's my markup percentage? So one of them puts up his hand and says 100%. So I went back to him and I said, now I'm going to say it's 50%. Prove me wrong. And they go, oh, you must be. I said, no. Prove me wrong. And so the whole idea is you take the difference and divide it by either the cost or the retail price. If you divide it by the cost, you get 100%. If you divide it by the retail price, you get 50%. I said, am I wrong? No. But if I'm a retailer and I'm talking to you, what sounds good to you?
Yeah.
50% or 100%? Hello? And that's how I want them to think about things.
Right.
In other words, don't take anybody's word for it.
Yeah.
Think about it.
That makes sense. So what is the number one piece of advice that you have for any student who wants to shoot for being, let's get a little bit specific here. They want to be the marketing director of, let's say, a medium-sized company somewhere.
Okay.
What is the number one piece of advice that you'd give a student who's in maybe their final 2 semesters? And I know you'd say, oh, it's too late now.
No, it
but but final 2 semesters to set themselves up for success to get that job.
Okay. He's walking into my court every time he talks. Okay?
Yeah.
What I mean by that is, you see, I show them my hand. I go marketing, finance, accounting, CIS, management. They are all fingers in a hand. They're all functional areas of a business. Can any of you, I ask my students, do push-up with one finger? Absolutely not. You won't be able to unless you're Bruce Lee or somebody.
Right.
You're not.
Right.
So,
which you're not.
Here's the thing. Marketing, finance, accounting, CIS, management. Put them all together and you have your fist. Now you can do the push-up.
Right.
So what I want them to do first is think like a business person. And then think like a marketer, a finance person, an accountant, etc., etc. Because if you cannot integrate everything as a business, you're going to be useless.
Wow. So they have to essentially be well-versed in all of those areas.
That's correct. And you do that. That's your opportunity in college. You're taking accounting classes, finance classes, marketing classes. Learn how to integrate them.
Yeah.
And be a good business
Not
person.
just silos.
That's correct.
Oh, wow.
That's what it is.
All right. Well, that is... my mind's blown. I don't know if your mind's blown as the audience here, but this was some great information that has come from, again, to me, one of the most influential professors in marketing. Oh, let me tell you though, huge influence on me and a huge influence on so many of my colleagues and friends and even family that have had Dr. Vish over the years. And so, any last words for our audience that's watching that you want them to know or do or be or say?
No, the only, again, I'm not a big person to advise anyone else because you have to actually find yourself in whatever you do. And so My only thing would be yourself in whatever you're doing and have fun with it.
Wow.
That's it.
Fantastic advice from Dr. Vish at the University of Northern Colorado, marketing professor in the Monfort College of Business. Thank you to everyone who has made Marketing Tea Time what it is. I say this every time, but honestly, we can't say thank you enough. We owe so many thank yous to so many people. Again, we run through the list. Thank you to Josh French, our technical producer. Thank you to Bike Shop Agency, another one of our producers, and Phil Van Druden and Peter Romero, our music and graphic supervisors. Thank you to Alyssa Youngval, our graphic designer, and Sheridan Youngval, another one of our graphic designers. Thank you to Vish for being on the show today.
Yeah, I only have one other thing to say.
Oh, go ahead.
If you enjoyed whatever we are talking about today, please let me know. And my email address is vish.iyer@unco.edu. Let me know if you enjoyed it, and if you need to talk to me more, you are welcome to do that.
That's a great invitation.
Thank
you need to take him up on that. You can also comment or, email, share, like, subscribe. Please, everyone, let us know how you liked this episode. And yes, please reach out to us. We can get you in contact with Vish. Contact him directly. And please like, share, subscribe, all of that. Until next time, everyone. Nasravi. Cheers. I learned that actually when I was with Vish in the Czech Republic. Nasravi is cheers. Yeah.
Nasravi.
Perfect. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks.